And we're back with Mr. Dave Anderson for part two. We're going to get straight into it. What is your secret to staying productive and driving forward? You've written so many books. I mean, it doesn't look like you're about to stop. What's the secret?
You know, everybody talks about balance. And I think one of the most underrated leadership traits, just human trait, is making an intentional effort to recharge your emotional and your physical batteries. And I was at a point early in my career where I was not doing that. And I was 40 pounds overweight and I had ulcers and I was so out of balance and I was stressed out and I was miserable and everybody around me was miserable. And it was making intentional, of course, means on purpose. So making an intentional effort to recharge, to revitalize. Even it doesn't even have to be for a long time. It has to be consistently done, though, I think. And so I do that even here at the office, and I travel a lot. But even when I'm at the office, I have an hour of what I call lab time, LAB. I tell my team I'm going to the lab. And the way my office is set up, I've got a couple of chairs facing the mountains out here. And from 12 to 1, I don't go to lunch. I have a protein shake. I get away from all my screens. I have a pad over there with a pen. And for an hour, I sit and think and relax right in the middle of the day. A lot of people I know they don't have the luxury of that. And sometimes I'll write down a decision I have to make. Sometimes I will write down an idea that we need to come up with. And that's a way that I recharge even while at work. Now, away from work, I love the martial arts. I think it's a great relief. I love nature. Our backyard is the Santa Monica Mountains. I think when you're out in nature, you have more neurotransmitters that are activated. The deep limbic system of your brain is calmed down. Endorphins are released. But you have to be intentional about that. And I don't know that anybody is in perfect balance to where spiritually, financially, emotionally, physically, you're 100% of where you should be. But I know that you get in trouble when you get too far off track for too long. So I think it's constantly making adjustments and being intentional in your approach. And so I stay productive by keeping my mind sharp and my body in good shape. And I'm careful what I put into my body. Everything from intentional hydration to breathing to intentional rest time. I get good night sleeps. And you have to work at it. You have to work at it. I work, I'm not worked. And it's like when some people at the end of their lives, they realize they never lived, they were lived. They never worked, they were worked. They were not the boxer, they were the bag. And I think that, just taking care of your mind, soul, body is just, there's no shortcut around being productive. I mean, you can push yourself through with adrenaline, to get a lot done in a period of time, but to consistently do it, to stand the test of the decades, not just to be the one hit, the 1 month, the 1 3-year wonder, but to consistently do it, you got to work at it. But the rewards are great. So being more intentional about those things. I work with athletes. I'm a mental skills trainer for different NBA players. And I've worked with 3 different college basketball teams as the mental skills trainer. And I tell these guys when they go out of town and they're going to play their opponent and they check into the hotel, just don't sit in the hotel room. Even if there's snow on the ground, get out and walk around the building a couple times. Look at the icicles on the trees. Look at the frozen river. It does something to your brain. It does something to your perspective. Breathe in that air. Be intentional. Make time to do that. And I got to practice what I preach, but I believe it's relevant for everybody.
Wow, that's such great advice. So do you, how often are you doing vacations and getting away?
Yeah, I like little mini vacations. I like frequency. So, and some people prefer the big long blocks, and I think that's awesome. And I've done some nice big long blocks, but I like little 2, 3, 4 day staycations, here and there, and you get a lot done, a lot recharged, and then you don't lose too much, your work rhythm. I'm also very careful what I give my time to and to whom I give my time. there's a chapter in my new book called Nothing is Neutral. And what I mean by that is I believe nothing and no one you spend time with has a neutral impact on your life. If even in a small way, they're either moving you closer to where you want to go or they're making it harder to get there. And the reason I say that is because they take time. The people you spend time with, the tasks you engage in, they take time, and you cannot replace the time. Mm-hmm. So if you can't replace it, it's not a neutral cost. It's not a neutral investment. People say, yeah, but if I just veg out for 4 hours, it's really maybe not helping me, but it's not hurting me. If it's not hurting you and it could help you, then it's not neutral because it could be helping you. And so regardless, nothing is neutral. And when I look through that lens at things and tasks, it changes how I spend my time. And it doesn't mean I'm judgmental, but I am discerning. And, there's certain people that you outgrow. There are certain people that can bring a negative value to your life with their drama and their entitlement and their complaining and their negativity and all these things. And I don't condemn that. I'm not a judge. They will be judged. They got to judge themselves. I got to judge myself. But I am discerning. And discerning means to recognize. To judge means to condemn. So I am recognizing that this isn't a good influence, that this isn't something that's going to make it any easier for me to get to my goals, to get to where I want to go. In fact, it's probably slowing me down, distracting me, and I'm losing time I'll never get back. I tell people that if you're going to steal from me, please steal my money. Leave my time alone. I can get more money. I can't get more time. I wish I'd have gotten this higher regard for time earlier in life. I had probably in my 40s, early 40s, so I've been at it a while. When you're younger, you think you got all the time in the world. You think you got all the time in the world to develop habits, to get yourself together, to be productive. But it goes so fast. I know it sounds like this old guy talking here. It goes so fast, but yeah. Truly it does. And I have a very high regard for my time now. When I got on an airplane, and I was thinking one day, I spend 40 hours a month on airplanes, and I'm not using my time well. I'm watching movies that are worthless. I'm staring out a window. I'm talking to a guy next to me that, this complains the whole 4 hours and about the security line, the food, the seat, his wife, the city he's going to, the city he's from, the job he's got. It's like, what could I do with these 40 hours? I have to have a higher regard for that time. And that's where I started writing books and columns, was on airplanes. So when I was home, I got to be with my family instead of in the back room away from them writing books. And so it's just evaluating, nothing's neutral. So is this making it easier or harder for me to get to where I want to go? I think that question helps you be more productive too.
You have any plans on retiring?
People ask that, and we've had offers to buy from a private equity company to buy my company. I mean, we have a lot of licensing income, a lot of royalty income. We have hundreds of hours of virtual training. And I'm just not, I'm in great health. I love what I do. A guy said, when are you going to retire? I said, I'll tell you when I'm going to retire. Either when it stinks or when I stink. Okay? So when it's bad or when I'm bad, I'm done. Okay? So, and for the... and I can say I don't feel either of those are the case right now. So again, just like so much of my life, Bronson, I don't have like a master plan. I don't have a master exit plan. I've got a couple of companies that if I ever were going to sell it, I want them to be in the right hands. And I've got a couple of people in mind that have shown an interest. But I love what I do. And so no plans to retire.
I don't think anybody has a master plan. The only plan that exists is the one of the master.
Yeah,
he's the only one who has that plan.
I'm not going to be presumptuous and say I'm out at this stage. He may have other plans, so I'm still open to things evolving.
I love that. Let's shift a little bit to management. Managing people. I've owned my business now for 18 years, and that's one of the hardest parts of running a business. What is the most common cause for management failure?
Oh, that's a great question. And there are a lot of ostensible causes that I think find a root cause in one key area. And I'm speaking from experience because, give you a little background, then I'll give you the answer to the question. Early on, I was terrible at managing, absolutely terrible. Because I sold a lot of cars, I got promoted. I didn't know anything about managing people. Okay, and sometimes I think we think because somebody's good at one thing, when we change their title, all these great skills will come to them in a dream one night, and that somehow the change of title will make them more competent. I didn't know how to cast vision, devise strategy, create tactics, give feedback, hold somebody accountable, create a culture. I didn't know how to do any of that. I micromanaged. I made every decision. I depended too much on myself. I never delegated anything. And honestly, I was very insecure. I never admitted mistakes. I took more than my share of the credit. And every one of the things I just mentioned is rooted in pride. There are a lot of, why don't I delegate? Because it might make me less valuable. Okay. What if they do it better than I do? I mean, I know we say, well, what if they mess it up? Well, if you teach them how to do it, they're probably not going to mess it up. Why was I not training and developing anybody else? Because I liked making all the decisions. I liked solving every problem. I liked the one that everybody had to come to. Dave, can we do this? Dave, can we do that? That fed my ego. Okay. Why did I not admit mistakes? Well, it was pride. I don't want to look bad. Why did I not give away credit? I don't want them to look good. I want to look good. So, and so I think pride is the root of so many of the management failures. Taking shortcuts. You think you don't have to follow the basics anymore. That's a pride issue. Okay. Cutting a corner. You think you can get away with it. You think you're above the values. And so, yeah. And that's one of those things, pride comes naturally. Humility does not. We have to cultivate humility. So humility is something we have to work at. And it doesn't always come with age. Some people get worse with age. People are not wine. Some people get worse with age. And so you have to work at it because the natural thing, our natural nature, is to be prideful, egotistical, selfish, lack empathy, not take responsibility. So being aware of that and working against that, I've written some things in the books about cultivating humility, but to answer your question, I learned the hard way from experience. I was very prideful, very egotistical, always had to be right, Bronson, always had to have the last word, always had to put everybody in their place. And that was exhausting. And it was very detrimental. So people have different opinions about this. I think there are a lot of causes. I think they're rooted in pride. I think it's pride or arrogance. Arrogance being the fact that you think you're superior to somebody else. And there's a lot of that goes on too. Because I have the title, somehow I think I'm superior to someone who doesn't. And that's a terrible outlook.
Why is it important for a leader to lead by example?
The interesting thing is we all lead by example. The question is, what is the example? And I tell people, if you lie, cheat, steal, and come in late to work, you're leading by example. That's a terrible example. But number one, credibility. If you talk right and walk left, if you talk about values and keeping commitments and doing the right thing and being a team player, and your people see you bad-mouthing other departments, taking all the credit for yourself, never admitting a mistake, you have very little credibility, and it's hard to lead without credibility. Number two, self-confidence. I think when you're doing the right thing, you feel better about yourself. You can't fool other people, but the self-esteem, the peace that comes with leading by the right example, taking the first hit. One thing we did during COVID, when our business was shut down here in California, we were deemed as non-essential. Yeah. If we were selling pizza, porn, alcohol, we could have stayed open. Pot, we could have stayed open. Okay, all that was essential. All right, but we were just trying to help people change their lives, so they shut us down, and we lost $4 million. We had 100 speaking engagements that were canceled, and another 100 that were never booked. And our virtual training business that was by subscription that we'd built up over 12 years, we had 75% of it be canceled in 2 weeks by people who were panicking during COVID. It was a shock. I never cut my people's pay. I paid 100% of their benefits, and my wife and I took a 90% pay cut so we could make that happen. To me, that's leading by example. That builds trust. That builds loyalty. That lets people, I think when there's a sacrifice to be made, leaders go first, right? You go first. You take that first hit. So if you want trust, if you want credibility, if you want to be able to sleep at night, the right type of peace, and if you want great people, you're going to attract what you are, not what you want. Okay. So, if you're on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're a 6, you're going to attract what's going to be naturally attracted to you are 4s and 5s. If you're, people say, well, let me tell you how bad my people are. Well, that means you're probably pretty bad because you're attracting what you are, not what you want. And so it's, there's a lot of reasons to lead by the right example. And in our company, I write about this stuff. So, we're held to a higher standard. When people come out here to our training center, we have about 10,000 square feet here. 5,000 is corporate office, 5,000 is a training center. We have a dozen classes or so a year out here. They're looking. Do these people walk their talk? How is the customer experience? Do they pay attention to detail? Do they keep their commitments? Are we being wowed? And so I love that pressure. I love the fact that we're held to live our example that we espouse in our training and in our books and so forth. So, but it really has to start with me. So everybody leads by example. Parents lead by example. We want to make sure it's the right example for those reasons.
Let's shift gears again. I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can in the short amount of time we have here. So let's get into tithing. So Christians, we all know tithing is important. It's talked about in Scripture. Maybe there's some misunderstanding with that, but specifically with business owners, how should a business owner approach tithing?
I think it's very personal how a business owner approaches tithing. We are the business owners. We tithe off our salary, and the salaries that we take off the gross, not the net, and then our profits at the end of the year. We'll do. If we make X, then we'll tithe off of that as well. It's tithing to me, people make it too legalistic, but to me, it's a form of gratitude. Yes, it's obedience. It is obedience. And people say, well, the New Testament doesn't talk about it. Well, read Matthew 23. Jesus gives a whole list of things, that you should not stop doing. And tithing is one of them. And so if he says that you should not stop doing it, then that means we should do it. But I'm not looking for a loophole to pencil whip God. Okay, I'm not looking for a way out. All right, and so these people is it gross or net? Well, how obedient, how blessed do you want to be? If you want to be blessed a little, net. If you want to be blessed a lot, gross. That's how I feel about it. I know it's personal, it's touchy. People get sensitive about it. People that are usually sensitive about it are the ones not doing it well or not doing it at all. They're the ones that get sensitive about it. And people say, well, I have more money, I'll tithe. That's not how it's going to work. If you can't tithe $10 off the $100 birthday gift you get, that $100 bill that Aunt Louise gave you, if you can't tithe $10 off of that, you're not going to tithe $100,000 off the million. Brother, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
You are not there yet. And so to me, it's a form of gratitude for God. It's his anyways. Thank you for blessing me. Just let me give a little bit of it back to you. And thank you for letting me feel good about keeping the rest, and maybe giving some to offerings and so forth. And, but to me, it's also being obedient. I think it makes me more blessable. I've been extremely blessed. And we did tithe when we were broke. When we did not have much at all, but we weren't treating the offering plate like a tip jar and putting $5 in it when it came around. We were pretty technical about what we put in there, and God blessed us, and He blessed that obedience, and He blessed that faith, and I can't imagine. Just like my morning Bible reading, it's like tithing. I can't imagine not doing either of those. I'm that big of a believer in it. I've seen the fruits. We started a foundation, back in 2006, the Matthew 25-35 Foundation that allows us to give even more, and that we support some wonderful projects through that foundation, and it's just become a way of life. I don't think the government was ever intended, honestly, to take care of society's ills. I think it should be the church and Christians,
Yep.
and the government mismanages money. I mean, they're just terrible. And
Yeah.
and we depend on the government too much for what people with the right hearts and resources, I think, should be doing more of.
Amen. I mean, what did Jesus say about the woman who was broke and she ended up giving everything she had?
That's right.
I mean,
Right.
he blessed that. Yeah.
He did.
How about debt? So when is it okay for a business owner appropriate
And
to take on
that's a
debt?
decision people have to make. I mean, the Bible, to my reading, never says debt is a sin, but there are penalties that come with debt. There are some stresses. There are some roles that get reversed to where now you're in a servient relationship to a lender, and that in itself can show presumption, which is frowned against. I don't like debt. I've been in debt. I don't take on debt in my company. I've taken on debt with mortgages. All right, I have done that, and then early on, and paid those off as fast as I could. But I don't feel comfortable with it. No, it's not a sin. There's a lot of things that aren't listed as sins that still aren't that great for us to do. And so I avoid it. I think it's a personal decision people need to make. I think you have to look for what your real motives are if you are going to go into it. Is it because you want more stuff? Is it because of covetousness? Is it because of greed? I mean, why are you doing it? I think the why is really important as to why you go in debt, and really being, transparent with yourself and with God for those reasons. Some people go into debt to get rich quick, and that's not going to really be a blessable thing. They go into debt so they can take that trip to Las Vegas and try to hit it big, because boy, if I can win on that roulette wheel, I'm going to give so much to the church. I'm going to build that new wing. I mean, they justify things all these crazy ways. So I think you got to really look at your motives too.
What are your thoughts on business partnerships?
Be careful. Be careful. And it's like the Bible talks about not being unequally yoked. And to me, that is somebody that has, different values than you do religiously. But just because you go into business with a Christian is no guarantee things are going to work out either, And so I don't like them. I don't do them. We license things. We're not in partnerships with those people. They pay us a fee and an override for using our stuff. Just be really, really careful. Family's really tough. I work with a lot of athletes, Bronson, that they get their first big contract. These kids came up with nothing. They didn't even know who their dad was. They get their first big contract. They got all these relatives wanting to go into business with them.
Yeah.
And they said, I need a side hustle, Dave. I need a side hustle. I'm thinking of doing a food truck business with Uncle Julio. I said, brother, you do the food truck business with Uncle Julio, you're going to lose the money and Uncle Julio. I said, you don't need a side hustle. You need to get better at basketball. Get better at basketball and get a better contract, and you don't need a food truck business. So I try to advise them, but people think they're successful if they got a lot of stuff working in a lot of areas. Well, to me, partnerships, I would go into business. I would do a partnership with the right person. I have done it in the past with the right person, but not very many. And I probably wouldn't do it now at this stage. And I certainly wouldn't co-sign anything for anybody. I'm talking about a relative. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to co-sign anything for anybody.
Yeah, because the Bible says that if we're going to help somebody, we just gift it to them. We don't need to.
Gift it to them is right. And most people, Bronson, they don't need more money. They need more financial wisdom. If they don't have financial wisdom, they're just going to throw away that money. Most of the people who are asking you for money need more wisdom, not more money to mismanage.
Yeah, that's a great point. So a lot of other books revolve around, look on Amazon, look anywhere. It's all about personal success, right? How does a Christian pursue success without allowing it to become an idol in their lives?
Yeah, I think everybody has to really look at what their definition of success is. And mine has certainly changed over the years. When I was just starting out making money, I had a very shallow Even as a Christian, I had a very shallow definition of success. Everything I wanted started with a B. I called it the B stage of my life. Okay. I wanted a beach house. I wanted another book deal. I wanted to own my own business. I wanted a Bentley. I wanted a black belt. I wanted all these possessions, all these credentials. And the fact is, I got all that stuff. And it's like the kid that opens the last gift on Christmas after all that anticipation, and he's like let down. It's like, this is all there is. This is it. It's over. And so my definition of success has evolved and matured as I've evolved and matured. Right now, I think you have to look at how you define it. Mine wasn't a very healthy way. I try to define my definition of success. I'm 62 now, is to try to become more like Christ. To me, that as I become more, I think I'm going to be blessed more. I think I'm going to get blessed more. I'm going to become more blessable. As I become more, I think I'll be able to impact more. I want to impact more people. I'd like more resources because we give a lot of money away and do a lot of good things. But I think becoming precedes getting. And I think to get more than we've got to first become more than we are. Now, the question is, who are you trying to become like? What are you trying to become like? You know, somebody you're watching on television, the Time Magazine Person of the Year. Is that who you're trying to become like? Is that your idea of success? I'm trying to become more like Christ and fail miserably every day. But get an opportunity to do better and to be molded more into that image. So that's where I'm at with my definition now. And I think if that happens, a lot of the other good things you would consider as being signs of success tend to come with it. I don't think it's wrong to have nice possessions if you work hard, but you can't let the possessions possess you. You know, that Jesus told one guy to go sell all his possessions. That wasn't a command for all of us across the board as a general rule. But you've got to keep them in their proper perspective, and you got to be content without them. You know, you got to be content without them too, whatever state you're in.
Why did you? You've mentioned martial arts a couple of times, and we've spoke before, and you said you're a second-degree black belt in the martial art Tang Soo Do. How did that get started?
Well, that got started in my 40s. I was a late starter, so I didn't get started until my 40s. When I started going to these mission trips, and I was going to Russia, and I was going to work with the leaders of the underground church in Iran, and we did them in some rough places in surrounding countries. It's like, I don't know how to fight. I didn't know how to fight. So, and I never could run very fast. So like, if I get in trouble, I can't run away. And if somebody puts a gun in my face, begging for my life doesn't seem like a good option, especially if my wife is with me. So I just wanted to learn how to do some basic, how do I take care of myself? How do I take care of my family? And then maybe I can teach these things to other people and help them in the same situation. And I never wanted to go through the belt structure. I just wanted to learn how to street fight, if you will, just very realistic reality. And so I loved that. We did gun defenses and knife defenses and wrist locks, headlocks, chokes. But I had been doing it for about 7 months. And I came home from a session one day and my wife looked at me with disgust. And she said, "You've been at this 7 months. You're still a white belt." I said, "Well, honey, I'm not going through the belt structure. I'm just wanting to learn. I'm just wanting to learn practical things." And she says, "Well, do you enjoy it?" I said, "Well, yeah." "Do you think you're going to stick with it?" I said, "Well, sure, as long as I'm physically able." She said, "Then wouldn't you like something to show for it?" And then the light bulb went on, and I went back and told my sensei, "You know what? I know I've been at it 7 months. I'd like to start from the beginning and kind of go through the belt structure." So it evolved out of a perceived need. It became something I really loved. A lot of the breathing and some of the things I use with athletes and stuff today, working through tough times, pain, resilience, discipline. Having that martial arts background has helped me relate in those areas as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I was a late bloomer, but I love it. I still love it to this day.
You know how many times I've met people like you as students? They'll come in, "Oh, I just want to learn some self-defense. I don't want to do all the belts." But then
Right.
as time progresses, you start learning something. You're like, wait a minute, there's something to this. And,
Yes.
I firmly believe martial arts is so unique. And part of it is that structured belt system, the rank system, similar to the military, right? You have your ranking. and then you have
Yes.
your respect, your honor. And I think, especially with not only adults, with kids, oh my goodness, it's so good for them to like see a goal, set that goal for the next belt, do what they have to do, and then achieve it, and then repeat the process.
Amen. That's
Yeah.
genuine self-esteem that they're
Yeah.
earning,
Yes.
not a
Yeah.
12th place ribbon or a trophy that somebody else gets,
Right.
everybody else gets, right? I mean, that's and when you can start that like at an early age, I think all kids would benefit. It's not about going and fighting people. It's the discipline, it's the achievement, it's the goal setting, it's the self-esteem, it's the self-confidence, and you will learn some practical things too that could
Yeah.
help you certainly in a tough spot, which is not a bad thing either. But I totally agree with you. I think I love to see the young people in the dojos that are sticking with it and that want to be there and that run
Oh,
onto the mat and they're just excited about the whole experience.
yeah, that's really my my fulfillment in life is teaching kids and helping them really get to that next level and overcoming their self doubt and all those things. But most importantly, just learning self discipline and like respect because it
Yes.
kind of is going away today.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, we try to we give it to them in false ways that disappears really quick. The problem is if people never have to earn anything, if it's all given to them, and then they get into the world and they realize there are winners, there are losers. There is success, there is failure. Not everybody gets a trophy. But if it's never been their fault, if they've always been a winner, even though it was a false type of winning, they're going to blame. It can't be me. Look at all those ribbons. Look at all those trophies.
Yeah.
Look at all the acclamation I had. And so they don't get to learn how to work through struggles and how to fight and bounce back from stuff at that early age. And that I'll tell you, that's a great formation. Struggles make us stronger. You don't want to wait too long before you start experiencing them, or you're just not ready.
Mm. Amen, brother. I'm completely in agreement with that one. That's why we're still in business. How are you incorporating today? How are you incorporating your faith in the workplace?
You know, it's interesting because when people come here, and we have people from all over the world that come to our training center, all over the country, all over the world. In the middle of our conference table, of course, my employees, before we hire anybody, we walk them around and say, listen, if any of this is going to make you uncomfortable, okay, you need to let me know because I'm not changing for you. We have a big plaque of the Ten Commandments. We have a big plaque of the Ten Commandments in the middle of our conference table. Behind my desk over there, there's a huge engraved Lord's Prayer. There's an engraved Ten Commandments, the 23rd Psalm. I have a picture, a bust of Christ right behind my desk. And so we don't try to hide it. And it opens up conversations. And I do weave in principles in my secular leadership training that are biblically based. And I will say where it comes from time to time, and never preaching it to anybody, never throwing it down their throat. But I'll have so many people come up and say, you're a Christian, aren't you? Because I know where that story comes from. To whom much is given, much is required. You know, give people what they earn and deserve, just not equally across the board. That story of the talents and so forth. And so we find ways beside the books to weave it in. We have discussions. I have a verse that my team sees every time they come into my office. It's in front of my desk. The Lord is my source, 1 Corinthians 8:6. That, yeah, we love our customers. We want to market, but ultimately the customers are not my source. The Lord is my source. The Lord will talk to customers about buying from me. Okay. And so we find ways to live it, display it, not hide it. In California, that's not normal, and certainly not to apologize for it. We did have somebody that came in. We hired someone from a temporary service one time that came in to help us work a big event. And she said, I'm very uncomfortable with all the Christian things that you have here. I said, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but you should probably leave because I don't want you to be uncomfortable here. I don't want you to be
Mm.
uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, you're not going to perform well. So I wouldn't expect you to stay. You have my permission to go. Okay. And she did. And that was it. But I mean, I'm not putting that away because you can't deal with it. Why don't you ask a question about it? Well, maybe you should wonder why it's making you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be a good conversation?
That's the question. I
Wouldn't
always
that be a
wonder
good
why
conversation?
it's like you can literally put anything on TV now. Anything. Like there's no holds barred, right? people are okay with it. But as soon as
Yeah.
you mention Christ, as soon as you mention Christ, the Bible, or anything like that, all of a sudden people are offended. That's it
They're
just
offended.
doesn't make sense.
You're a bigot. It's hate speech. It's like morality.
Yeah.
It's not hate speech. I mean, it's like we live in a very offended age. I tell the audiences I'm with, I say I'm very direct. I'm old. I don't have time for fluff. If I say something in here that offends you today, that's completely your fault. You should not be that soft. Kind of sets the tone. Sets the tone. I said, why would you want to give somebody that much power over your life?
Yes. Amen.
To be
that.
offended, to
Yes.
take the bait at every little joker on social media, or a guy that cuts you off in traffic, or someone that elbows you trying to get ahead of you in a line. But anyway, we live in the most offended state in the country out here. People wake up here every day wondering, what can they be ticked off at? What can I be upset with today? Who can I cancel today?
Yeah, I've visited California many times, and I've read some things about it, and I can only imagine living there. But I mean, you guys got the weather.
We got the weather. The grandkids are here. It makes no financial sense for me to do business in this state. I have roots in Texas. I have great friends in Tennessee. I'd get out of here in a minute, but the grandkids, they're like the anchor here. And
Yep,
one is
I
3
get
and
it.
one is 5. And I told my wife, though, kind of tongue in cheek, I said, I understand, for the last 5 years, it's been about the grandkids, but there's Zooms now. We could come in and visit on holidays. That did not go over very well. I just thought I'd test the waters and poke the bear a little bit there. It didn't work.
Oh, that's great. That is great. So as we close, how can our listeners learn more about your services?
What our website is learn2lead.com. If you spell it out just like it sounds, LEARNTOLEAD.com. We have something there called the Insider Club. It's free to join. There's all kind of free articles, videos. My podcast, The Game Changer Life, we've done over 400 episodes. We're downloaded, I think, in 173 countries now. You can have access to that from just about anywhere. There's a master control from our website, but you'll see our services, our workshops, our seminars, our downloads, all the stuff that we do at learn2lead.com.
We'll put that link on our website as well. Guys, if you're listening, please read How to Run Your Business by the Book and How to Lead by the Book. Those are one of the best books I've ever read, and I've read a lot of books. And of course, check out his other stuff too. Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson, for coming on. If you're ever in Kansas City, please reach out. I can take you to one of the most best barbecue joints that exists.
You guys got it there. I know you've got it there. I'm telling you. Don't be surprised. I've got your number. I love good Q. I love good Q. Good Kansas City Q. It's hard to beat. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for having me on. God bless you and your work, and I hope our paths cross again soon.